international tax students often have a challenge when they're dealing with their taxes because the rules are different than what you see when you're filing a 1040 for a resident or a U.S. citizen. So it becomes a little bit different when a non-resident is doing their taxes. And when you talk to many tax preparers, they're accustomed to the 1040 and they're not always sure of what the different rules are when you're dealing with international students. So my name is Brian Winrow. I'm a tax attorney and tax professor, and this is a video in my playlist where I'm helping international students understand what their responsibilities are and the process for filing their tax returns. And in this video, what I'm going to be talking about are the top 10 mistakes that I see when you have international students that are doing their taxes inside the United States. So let's go ahead, let's look at the table. It's going to give you all 10, and then I'm going to provide some context for each of those 10 common mistakes. All right, so here's our 10 top mistakes that you see when international students are filing their tax returns. So on the left, we have the mistake, and then on the right-hand side, it shows what you should have done instead. And what I'll do is I'll provide some additional context for this as we go through each of these mistakes, so you know how to avoid these mistakes or what to be on the lookout for so you don't run into the same mistakes and your tax filing goes much more smooth. So the first mistake that you can see is filing the wrong tax forms. Now, this is probably the most common mistake that I see international students make. And the reason being is the U.S. is much more centric toward their 1040 because that's what U.S. citizens are going to be filing. So a lot of practitioners are not familiar with the 1040 NR. So if you aren't familiar with the 1040 NR, you may be pushed to the wrong document. In addition, many of the tax platforms that are out there, the programs, are also based on the 1040, so it doesn't always catch the 1040 NR, so you can run into issues with that. You might be filing the wrong form with it, and if you file the wrong form, then what happens is you're going to start getting notices from the IRS. You can also have things like penalties and fees and things like that. So you want to make sure if you have to file a tax return, and I have a video that details whether you have to file a tax return, but if you do have to file a tax return, then you're looking at, in most instances, a 1040 NR if you're an international student. Now, the next one is not filing the form 8843. So for many students, an 8843 is going to be required every year, and you're going to file that even if you did not have any income. So it doesn't matter if you have income, you have zero income, you still have to use that 8843 in many instances. Now, if you do have to file a 1040 NR, you're still going to include an 8843 with that. Now, you will have a couple videos in this playlist to where I'm going to walk you through doing a 1040 NR, and I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step for the 8843. So I'll help show you the process that you would use when you're doing these two different types of IRS forms. All right, the third one is going to be the wrong filing status or taking credits that you're not eligible for. So in our previous video, we talked about some of those statuses that you're not eligible for, such as you're not able to claim married, filing jointly, or head of household. So sometimes because of the way that the programs are set up and accounting programs, people will claim that, international students claim it, and that can be an issue, or they claim something like a tax credit. Maybe the program allows them to take it, but if you're an international student, you're generally not going to be eligible for those types of credits or filing statuses, and that can throw off your taxes, and you can encounter issues with that. Now, in most of these situations, look, these are honest mistakes. They're common mistakes. So they do happen, but just be aware of that. The fourth one is going to be not reporting taxable scholarships. So most of your scholarships are generally not going to be taxed as long as it's being applied toward your tuition and fees. But if you have excess or you have a fellowship that's paying beyond your tuition and fees and you're using it for housing and you're using it for food and those types of things, that's generally going to be taxable. So you need to be including that as you're doing your taxes. The next one is going to be not reporting all U.S. income. So the way that our system is set up is when you're dealing with our income, it's not just you reporting it. There's also information filing. So your employer is going to also be reporting a W-2. So they have that information, and the IRS will check it between what the employer sent and what you reported. So sometimes something is accidentally left off, and the IRS is going to say, wait, why didn't you report the W-2 income? So that's what you're looking at in those types of situations. So when you're doing your filing, make sure you're including everything. Make sure you keep those documents that you need, 1099s, W-2s, things such as that. The next one is going to be not claiming treaty benefits. So treaty benefits, this is designed to help you. It reduces your tax rate, and it can reduce the amount of taxes that you owe. Now, when you're looking at treaties, those are country by country. So you want to look at the different types of treaties, the one that will be applicable to you, to see whether it applies, and to see what tax rates might be lower for you. And it applies not only country by country, but source by source, income type by income type. Now, I'll do a video that's going to walk you through the basics of treaties so we can get a feel for what the treaties are, because that can be a little bit complicated. The next thing that we're looking at is going to be the FICA taxes. So sometimes FICA taxes are being withheld, and if the FICA taxes are being withheld, what you have to worry about is you're overpaying. So this is usually an administrative issue, because if you're an F and J visa, if you're here on an F and J visa, a lot of times you're exempt from the FICA taxes. So sometimes it's as simple as going to your employer and saying, hey, this should have been withheld. Maybe they weren't accustomed to how that works. Or if they're not able to help you, then you file a form 843 and you file that with the IRS in order to get that amount back. So it's something that can be resolved, but you want to make sure that you're not paying those FICA taxes if you're exempt from it. The next one is if you have an expired tax identification number. So maybe you have a social security number, you didn't put the correct social security number, or you didn't list it, or you have an I-10 and it's expired, or you don't even have the I-10 yet. Well, you need to go ahead and you need to be planning in advance to get that I-10. Do it early in the tax season, because you need to give it processing time so that way you get that information, you get that I-10 number, because you need that in order to file. Otherwise, you're going to get a rejected return on those types of things. Incorrect addresses or phones, so the IRS requires that information. So you're going to want to include one that's going to be a U.S. address and contact information. Something's going to be reliable. Look, I work with students all the time, and I know students move oftentimes from year to year. They go to different places, but you're going to want something that's going to be as reliable as possible so that information gets back to you. So the final one that I want to mention is that filing late or the wrong address. Filing late can be a pretty big issue. Remember, you're looking at generally April 15th. If you have income, U.S. source income, otherwise you're looking at June 15th. You want to make sure that you're getting that filed so that way you're avoiding any types of notices or late fees or penalties or anything like that. Hey, I hope this video was helpful as you're looking at the different mistakes, that you learn from these mistakes and that you're able to get through tax season without any issues. If these videos are being helpful, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel, and good luck as you continue with your tax season and your semester.